So I believe, right, if you are an entrepreneur in Africa, two things happen. Number one, everybody thinks you're crazy, and the truth is you are. And then number two, everybody thinks that you're not serious with life. If you need someone to motivate you to become an entrepreneur, to advise you to become an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be even thinking about entrepreneurship. Because here's the thing, when shit hit the fan, the person that advise you to become an entrepreneur will be nowhere to be found. But if you really, really believe that you should be an entrepreneur, why?
Sidi, what's your story, man?
So my story is a very, very crazy one, but it wasn't about making money. Of course, I needed some of the money, but it wasn't about that. It was something more.
Did you end up doing that?
I did, but I failed really badly. And then we ended up getting into some form of problems.
Yeah. So was there a reason why you didn't want to go and get a job?
Yes. Number one, I didn't think I would have fulfillment finding the job. And then number two, I really, really believe somehow that.
So why did it fail miserably?
So again, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the right mentorship, but I was trying to figure things out. And I realized that, hold on, I don't have a mentor. I don't have the money, but I do have one thing. And just like that, I wasn't even expecting that to succeed. It just did.
Sidi's in the building.
Yes.
Go on, man.
Good. Super excited. I've been, I think it's been a long time. Wanting to be here in Kigali, so finally made it. So quite exciting, and looking forward to having a sit down, and having this conversation.
Yeah, thanks a lot for making it, man. At first glance, what do you think? What do you think about Kigali? How is it different from other neighboring cities? Let's say.
I think it's very clean. Yeah. And this. I'm going to liken this to an experience that I have. So I was in Sweden a couple of months ago. So I spent about 2 months out there in Sweden. It was really, really clean. And so when I flew into Kigali, so I've heard about, the famous cleanliness. And when people come to Kigali, that's what everybody says. But you never really understand the level of cleanliness until you actually experience it. It's like, holy smokes. Yeah, this is really clean. Yeah. But I think I also love how organized things are. Mm. You should see Okada riders or bikers or Buddha, whatever name. I don't know the name, or I don't know the traditional motor guy here. Like elsewhere, it's almost chaotic. So seeing how organized that they are here, it's like, yeah, it's very impressive. I must be honest. But then it's the first day, so there's a lot more to see.
I mean, definitely. I think the cleanliness. That's for sure. I read somewhere somebody was saying that the moto guys in Kigali, they wait at the traffic lights. Like they were really impressed by that. And in my head, I was like, "Where do you live?"
Yeah, no, yeah. Trust me, like organizing that part, it's in itself just impressive, because I have been in enough African countries to know that in terms of transportation, they are probably the most difficult people to control, to organize, right? The wait for the traffic lights, from what I've seen so far, wait for the traffic light, don't drive in the wrong way. Everybody seems to have their helmet on. It's really, really impressive. It's really impressive. I must be honest. It's really, really impressive. Yeah.
I mean, we're trying. Cool, man. Sidi, take me through a couple of years back, right? What's your story, man?
So my story is a very, very crazy one. So I listened to you before we jump on, talk about your story about selling phones. Actually, that's my story. Really? Yes, it is. But it's a little bit of a nuance with me, right? So at the time, I was still in university. I think I was in second year in university, and my auntie wanted a phone. So we had like this black market where people go to buy phones. So the idea was you have an old phone, you add money on top of the old phone, and then you go purchase another old phone that you think is better than your old phone that you already have. And for some reason, my auntie she just trusted me to do those deals for her. So it became some sort of like a movement for me. So I love the idea of the barter, the trade, and the argument, and the conversation that goes into it. And then at the time, I had a cousin of mine who was actually based there doing all of the work. So he would lead me to all of these corners. And during those times, he didn't know that I was really in awe of him, like the way he talks to people, the way he executes on these deals. But one of the things that was really, really shocking is when it moves from my auntie wanting me to do the transaction for him to go to spreading across every family member. When everybody wants food, they come to Sidi and then say, "Hey, man, I want to phone. Can you go like wherever you can go sort it out?" And then I'll just go down there and then I'll try to, sort it out. But it wasn't about making money. Of course, I needed some of the money, but it wasn't about that. It was something more. But at the time, I didn't really know what more was. I didn't really understand it. But it was about the risk factor that was there. And at the time, what seemed to happen is that you take your old phone, you walk into this market back home in Sierra Leone, where I come from. They call it Belgium or Swazi. You walk in, you meet someone random. You've never met this individual before. And then they convince you to sell in their old phone to you. You give them your phone plus money. And then sometimes you walk out of, like, the moment you leave that environment, the phone that you purchased stopped working. It was amazing. Like, it's just stopped working. And it's happened to me before. So as I started experiencing that, something just in my mind just said, what if you can actually formalize this sector, remove the risk, build some form of a structure like a shop wherein people know that it's built on the trust factor. So it's not a random guy anymore. And then your phone is actually valued based on the age, the model, and the functionality. And then you pay the difference so you can have a superior phone for that. What if you can do that? What will that mean? And that was the first time I started having the context of what a value add-on could be and what removing risk from the risk in certain aspect of that transaction can look like. And I think I want to say that's where my journey started, but it wasn't really the formative years, but that's how I actually started the whole thing in entrepreneurship.
I mean, it's funny that these stories are similar. When you look at, I was telling you about the same story, literally, right? That's where I learned about value, adding value to a specific product. That's really interesting. Did you end up doing that?
I did, but I failed really badly. I did. I mean, a bunch of things. So number one, I had no mentors. I had an uncle who, traditionally you have this one uncle who is a really great businessman, and then you're there you're learning the business, they will say, but it wasn't like a structured mentorship. And we didn't really understand that was a form of mentorship. So when I wanted to launch, one of the mistakes that I made was that everybody who sees this formalization, we see it as an opportunity and not as a competition. Mm. But meanwhile, it was more of a competition, especially for those that own the phone, because they know that their phone, like, it's a scamming game happening, right? They need to scam to make. So you're telling them, oh, forget about the scamming, and then just
be honest.
Just be honest, and then you want everybody to appreciate it. It was just ridiculous. So yeah. Nobody even look at me. Beyond, I don't believe it was more than 10 people that bought in at the time. And it was so frustrating because I could see that people need it, but I think my approach was absolutely wrong. And since then, I went on to launch several other things. So I fell in love with an app. So my sister got me an iPhone back in the day, like really like just the iPhone. And then that iPhone came with an app called Pixart. And I started playing around like with the functionality and stuff like that. So I started admiring tech. So I went on to launch multiple tech products. All of them failed like really badly because there was no infrastructure. People didn't understand what I was doing. I did not understand what I was doing. So it means that I could not sell what I was doing, but I could see the vision and the impact that will. So I think from every failure, I just built and learned until I got myself a formalized form of mentorship that actually just pushed me through the next stage of my journey.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. What gave you that confidence to want to solve these problems by building, sort of like a company, let's say, right? Or a product that can actually solve this? Because I'm just thinking about my own experience in that sense. Like I wasn't thinking about, okay, let me try and formalize this business. Like what I was thinking about is like, let me try and maximize my profits. Let me just get more customers. Probably maybe if I made it a bigger business, probably I would have thought about, let me formalize it. But it seems to you that, to me that in your story, you face this problem and you want to come up with a solution. You see a Pixar, you want to do something. What gave you that confidence, or what gives you that drive? Is it a family? Does it come from a family? Or?
I mean, I don't know whether it's confident, but I will say it's audacity. So I believe, right, if you are an entrepreneur in Africa, and then you are schooled, you went to university, you graduate, and then you say back in the day, and then you say you want to be an entrepreneur, two things happen. Number one, everybody thinks you're crazy, and the truth is you are. And then number two, everybody thinks that you're not serious with life. And that is often the opposite. So for me, it was, I have the audacity. So I hated the usual way of doing things. So even in my house, right? So my mom was a businesswoman, but I hated the way she did business. Like I always find inefficiency in everything that she does. Like if she's like, sometimes she'll come home and say, Sidi, will help me fill out this invoice. And I'll say, I would hate to do it like with paper and stuff like this. And I'll argue. And then she was like, just do it. This is how I pay your fees. Just do it. So I think it's a mixture of those things. So that audacity and that passion of what if. So I believe in the what if, and I want to chase the what if. I want to say, what if I do things this way? What's the worst that could happen, right? And I've been able to consistently build on that what if, and I think it's coming from that audacity. I wouldn't sit here and say it's a family inheritance or I learned it somewhere or whatever it is, but I think it's just like this deep voice that wants to say, what if you push it a little bit? Just push it a little. And this is not only about problem solving. It's basically how I operate my whole life. And I could tell you, Yusuf, I've landed myself into big problems trying to push things in the way that they shouldn't be. But it has never really stopped me. And I think that's where I don't know whether it's passion. Yeah. I don't know whether it's confidence at the start. It was just the craziness of wanting to try. And I always say, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah. If I do this today, if I try to formalize the Belgium structure, what is the worst that could happen? Yeah. The honest truth is
only lessons that could be learned.
Only lessons that could be learned, right? Yeah. So why not try?
Yeah.
So,
you went to college, to university?
Yeah.
What did you do and what influenced what you studied?
Economics. So, interestingly, I was in the sciences. So my mom desperately wanted me to be a doctor. I mean, every parent wants their child to be a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant. And I hated blood. I was delusional that I love the medical field, but actually I didn't. It was like the notion that everybody that was in the sciences was super intelligent and clever. And I want to be seen as intelligent and clever. So when my mom pressured me a little bit, just a little bit, to go into the sciences. Like, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. Yeah. And so I jumped in and I bombed chemistry every single time. like there's no way I'm going to be a doctor. I was like, it's just not possible. And so, but I made a deal with my mom that a lot of people don't know. Even my friends didn't know this. I have like 2 close friends that I always study with. But I didn't know how I had a secret deal with my mom. And I said to her, listen, if I seek to like when you're seeking to go into university, you have GCSE, A-level and stuff like that. So ours is called WIC, if you sit into the WIC exams. If you want to go to the medical school at the time, you have to have like a certain grade, maybe about C5, credit 5. I don't know really what the rating is, but about C5 or B something to get. But I knew I was going to fail chemistry. So I said to my mom, listen, if I make a B3 in chemistry, which I know was impossible, I'm going to be a medical doctor. If I don't, I'm going to do economics.
Yeah.
But nobody knew I had this conversation with my mom. And my mom was super certain that was, even if I don't study, because, you're in the sciences, my son is intelligent. She didn't have a clue I was suffering and I was struggling. So I bombed chemistry anyways.
So you ended up in economics.
Yeah. And so I just went to do what I really, really wanted to do, economics.
Yeah.
And I didn't go study economics because I want to become an economist. I went there because I wanted to understand how economies work, like how trade works, how systems, guiding principles around trade works. Not so I can go sit at the bank and become an economist and things like that. No, that was not the reason why I became an economist. So that's pretty much, aligning a little bit of my craziness and my desire to push boundaries and being going, what if?
Yeah. Did you absolutely kill it in economics? Yeah.
I did well. I don't know whether I killed it. I did well. Sadly, I didn't make the honors class, but I think I should have. There's a whole backstory on that. Because at one point in time, they asked me to actually join, but then my ego didn't allow me because of everything that has happened and transpired before that. And so I just continued in general class. And I did very well, to be honest, because it came naturally. Like, I understand the microeconomics aspect, the macro. I hated the mathematics, but I love everything else in between. And it came really, really naturally. Yeah. And again, remember, I wasn't doing it because I wanted to go become an economist, right? I wanted to genuinely understand trade and how it works and the dynamics of trade itself and the principle around it. Mm-hmm. And so, I think I did well.
Yeah. So you graduate, right?
I did.
What happens when you graduate?
So when I graduated, I didn't look for a job. I go back to my uncle, the businessman in his corner store, and I just stayed there. And it was a couple of months later, and I was just there. And friends, you have this friends pressure, like everybody's going out, they're getting jobs and stuff like that. People were like marketers in the day. They're wearing suits under the heat, like the heat of the sun. But they come to you, they make you feel as if like they are better than you, even though you're sitting under a shade and stuff like that. But because they're wearing suits and they're working for a big name bank and they're not being paid a lot, maybe $100, but you feel like you have like this feeling as if, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. But it was a learning experience.
Yeah. So was there a reason why you didn't want to go and get a job?
Yes. For 2 things. So number one, I didn't think I will have fulfillment finding the job, right? And then number 2, I really, really believe somehow that I will build a successful business at a very young age. I really, really believe it. But I also learned that there's no way I can do it without learning from a master. That is my uncle. Mm-hmm. Because he was living a very humble life, very quiet, but was killing it, right? So when I sit there and I saw like the way he was moving things, remember back when I was in university still, I saw the battle system that happened in Belgium and twice in how. So I was already very excited with those things. And so I think about the third or fourth month, and it started dawning on me, maybe I'm wasting my time because friends are gone, people are having jobs and stuff like that. So I started applying. But I wasn't really putting a lot of effort in applying. You know, those situations wherein you start applying so your parents don't feel as if you're just useless and stuff like that. So it was, for a while, it was like that. But then I finally got a job to go to work in the mining sector outside in the outskirts of Freetown, rooted in the mines. And 3 months, I took 3 months and I quit because it wasn't for me. I wasn't driving, I wasn't driven, I wasn't sacked, I was performing well, I was being paid. I hated the job because it was like going there, sitting there. I wasn't seeing, I didn't see the value I was adding. I didn't see the problem that I was solving. I didn't see anything. All I know is I was away from my family for a very long time in the mining sector. So I can wake up Monday to Sunday, do the same thing over and over. 3 months, I resigned. And in fact, I wrote the resignation letters, shot it to the HR, but still left open like my computer at the time on the screen with the resignation letter, just in case they didn't get it. So I didn't even wait for them to accept the resignation letter and then I left. Yeah. So that's when my entrepreneurship journey actually now started, because I knew that if I had taken this decision, I need to then build something and maybe not make money, but find success in it.
Yeah. And how did you find the first problem to work on?
Yeah, so it was going back to what I experienced, right? So coming from university, you're young, you don't want to get into job. But at the same time, at the time I started looking for job, a lot of people, a lot of the job opportunities at the time are asking for 4, 5, 6 years experience. Nobody has that. In a country where about maybe, without exaggerating, maybe more than 50% of all employment is made by the government. It's highly competitive. It's a lot of factors that could actually lead you to getting the government job. It means that, young people graduating from university will have to wait years and years to land a job. And so I said, why don't I create a community wherein these young people can list their skill set, what they've learned, especially like accountants, what they've learned in university, lend this skill set to small, medium enterprise owners who don't have the money to pay them full-time salaries, but can still give them some subsidized income so they can do bookkeeping and stuff like that. And then the accountant can count that as experience, but at the same time make some money as they wait for the job. The small business owner can actually have a bookkeeper that keeps their book together and don't have to pay full-time staff every cost. So that's how I found my first idea, which failed. But that's how I found it.
Very interesting, man. I'm seeing so many similarities in your story and mine. So why did it fail miserably?
So again, I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the right mentorship, but I was trying to figure things out. I would go online to learn different things. I was using the American Embassy library to learn a bunch of stuff, right? So in fact, some of the stuff that I learned led me to become like a fashion designer, movie script writer, like everything that I can try, I tried. But with that, right, it was clear as day that people needed it. But then I was making an assumption that people understand fully understand the value of it. So there's a difference between recognizing the problem and identifying the value in the problem, because the value in the problem is what gives you return, money or whatever it is, right? So a lot of the young people at the time think that it was better for them to just stay waiting for application after application for a job than actually list on a platform that gives tiny jobs here and there. Don't ask me what was the thought process. I don't know, because up to date is the most illogical thing, but then it didn't pick up because a lot of people didn't sign on. I think I started off, I have a community of about 50 or so. And then, there were small, medium enterprise owners as well. They didn't want to pay for a full-time accountant, but then they didn't trust the young people to do it like that book. So I wasn't able to properly balance the two communities that I wanted to solve. So I failed.
How were you planning on making money with that kind of product?
So honestly, I didn't think about the money in the first place. So what I wanted to build at the time was a large enough community. So I believe that if I had a large enough community, I can then translate that community into skills like, I wouldn't say skills acquisition, but some sort of like a job board, but not in the traditional sense. It's not like where I would post job opportunities, but rather where our employers could come and look for talent, right? It didn't happen. This was back in 2014. So, and you have to understand, 2014 in Sierra Leone, nothing was happening in tech, entrepreneurship, right? So doing that in itself wasn't going to work. And then I moved along. I started off saying, okay, so I had an uncle of mine who would always call me for business addresses in Freetown and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, there was Yellow Pages at the time. So Yellow Pages gives you like big book directory, like how you have telephone pages, big directory of, all of like this different addresses of businesses and stuff like that they source from the registrar, the general registrar. And I thought to myself, why not digitalize that? When you do that, what happens is you're giving power to people that need the information, people overseas, because the transaction volume, a lot of people overseas, the diaspora, spend more with these businesses anyways, right? So if you give them these information, it's easy for them to connect with them. And to be honest, my uncle will stop calling me all the time when he needs to find out who that cement seller is, or I would just send him a website. So we launched, and we're in the process of aggregating all of the data, and then we ended up getting into some form of problems, wherein at the time the then a speaker of the house at the time, back those days, said that a Yellow Pages, there was an enterprise that was given the sole right to distribute business information. And so we were killed immediately. So nobody gave us any form of contact information, no nothing. And it was just too expensive to go survey all of the businesses at the time. To walk around town or whatever it is, do manual survey. And so it's just died.
Yeah. Very interesting. I mean, from all these projects that you're working on, I'm picking up two things, right? Number one, you're thinking about building tech products. Why? How are you thinking about tech, right? Your background till now does not involve anything in tech, right? I think you have an economics background. Okay. You want to become an entrepreneur, you want to make money, you figure out ways to find problems. Where was this tech focused? This tech focus coming from?
It was simple. So it came from a book I read at the American Embassy at the time. Yeah. The argument in that book was about what the possibility of tech and its reachability. And one of the key premises of that book was the fact that the more people have knowledge of your product or your service, the more plausible it becomes for it to succeed. And so in that context, it means that scale needs tech to distribute. So even if I want to do something like, procurement and stuff like that, I'll always think about at scale. What does this mean? And then I'll find myself again, tech, distribute. So it wasn't like the fanciness or anything. It was about the distribution, the network, the power of aggregation and the reachability. And that's what was the driving force when I was thinking about tech. It wasn't about how cool it was. Like I didn't even know code or anything like that. It was about distribution, reachability to scale. Because I didn't want 10 people to use the product. I want hundreds of people to use it. I want thousands of people to use it. How can I do that? I'm in Sierra Leone. The only option is tech, right? Use tech.
Yeah, the other options are more expensive.
And you don't have it. By that time, remember, during those time, venture capital, angel investors and things like that. Yeah, it's a lot of, it was in existence, but it wasn't really preeminent like we have today. So a lot of the investment that was happening at the time was private equity investment. So there was the investment were in large infrastructures and stuff like that, healthcare infrastructures, agriculture and stuff like that. So nobody really think about tech. The best you can do is have a grant, right? And I didn't know how to write whole grants.
Yeah.
So there was no way I was going to have money to do any of those things than to leverage the tools that I have at the time, tech tools, and build from that, use that to build.
The second thing that I was picking up from your story is, you're a young guy, you just graduated and you're testing out a lot of these products. Some of them are failing, due to a number of reasons. How are you funding yourself? Like, how are you getting money to just go buy and do these projects?
So I wasn't funding myself. I was funding the product, the projects, and so there's a nuance to that because. For every time I make money, at the time my mom was still supporting me because she knows that I'm wasting my life. She knows that I'm wasting my life away. But then because of the motherly love, she can't let me waste it forever. So she'll still send me from time to time like some allowance and stuff like that. Yeah. And so those allowances was what I was using to just invest and, trying to push it. But there was one thing that stood out and why that actually made me kept going is for every time I failed, it opened my eyes to a new level of information that I've never had before. And that was very exciting. So by the time so this was like two years after I've, about a year after I've left the job in the mining sector. And I realized that, hold on, I don't have a mentor. I don't have the money, but I do have one thing, American Embassy Library. It was free. I am going to read all the books. I'm going to use so much of the internet. And I'm going to study so much. So at the end of that second year, I had done about 13 professional qualifications from different universities across the world in innovation tech, entrepreneurship, innovation tech, and repeat. Like sometimes I'll do a course that is being run by Harvard, and then I'll finish that. I'll do a course the same course as is running in another university that I don't know their name. I'll go there and I'll finish it. I'll do another. Like, it was just about that level, it gets to a point where I realize that, okay, I need to be educated. I don't have a mentor, so how do I educate myself? And the only way I can have that cheap education was to use the embassy. And that's what I did. And I think that's actually the basis of like the knowledge and the next product that I launched. It actually led to the first success. So I launched a product called InvestMe. So InvestMe, because of the struggle that I had, I realized that, okay, the Australian ecosystem was really, really young. Well, it's still young, but there's no players. The only players are being sponsored by international development partners, and young people don't have a space. What if I create a space and I call it InvestMe and build a network of young people that we can bring together to collaborate with each other? So you're a marketer and you're looking for a graphic designer, you can have those things happening. But also, what if I institute a bridge with international players? And just like that, I wasn't even expecting that to succeed. It just did. And I started having calls from development partners to go talk about like how I'm doing this and stuff like that. And money started coming in form of consultancy and things like that. And I started working with local entrepreneurs at the time, building hair products and stuff like that, So it becomes really, really exciting. And this was without the tech. And I started thinking, oh, okay, so maybe I don't need the tech. But I actually did. I was actually using the tech, but it's in a different way. So instead of building a platform, I was actually now leveraging already available platform to create the community that I needed, right? So I was leveraging Facebook. WhatsApp was beginning to catch a little bit of fire. So I will form like WhatsApp community and stuff like that. So, and then I met a young guy like myself who knows he loves coding, website and stuff. And so we set up our first website and it's just kept going. And then we launched InvestMe Taxi. That was like an Uber ride hailing, but we use USSD codes, right? Wherein you can send a message, text message for taxi but that failed. And the reason why that failed is because we didn't figure out how to keep the drivers loyal. So they'll find the customers, pick up the customers and never return. They'll just build a relationship with the customer and the customer so it didn't work.
Yeah.
But InvestMe still continues up to date.
And so the idea, if I get it correctly, is it some kind of incubator way?
Yeah, it was a mix. And this this is going to sound funny. So remember, I don't have the knowledge, like most people today don't have the knowledge on how to build businesses, but they are running incubators and accelerators, not to take a job, right? But they don't have any reason to be launching incubators and accelerators because they've never built businesses.
Yeah.
And at the time when I launched InvestMe, I had attempted building businesses and I failed. So what I was doing was not accelerating businesses, but to support other business owners to not fail as I have failed. It wasn't an incubator. So just to be clear, it wasn't an accelerator. It was nothing like that. Yeah. It was just a form of like community that provided support networks so you don't fail like I failed while I was trying to build businesses.
So when you started this InvestMe, let's say community, right, at this point, as it's becoming successful, right, as you're helping a lot of these entrepreneurs, build up their products, when you started reflecting back at your previous startups and why they failed, did you ever come up with like the similarities and the challenges that you faced? Really?
One of the key reasons why I failed is lack of mentorship. One of the key reasons, because everything that I had at the time, you need to understand, it was needed in the market, or I can see the problem. The problem was there and things like that, right? It was needed, but I wasn't able to communicate the value, right? I wasn't able to sell the value. I wasn't able to convince that scammer in that guy that wants to run a quick scam. I won't call them a scammer because they are all trying to do a honest, I don't want to use honest this, leaving, but they are all trying to do the stuff, right? So I wasn't able to convince them to come because I wasn't able to provide them the value with clarity because I didn't have the mentor to teach me how to do it. I didn't have a mentor to teach me how to understand how tech product really works. So for me, remember, tech was about reachability. It was about distribution. But there are nuances in those elements that I didn't understand. So the singular most important reason why I failed, even if I was given $1 million, I think I would still have failed because I lacked mentorship. Simple as that. Yeah. I lacked mentorship.
Why is mentorship so important? One could think that entrepreneurs are born, and some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, I don't know if you read their biography or watch their movies, you don't really see somebody who's there telling them what to do. They kind of, I mean, that's the notion. That's the notion that's out there, is that the people who've made it, they kind of had to figure it out themselves. Were they some kind of genius? I don't know. What was their mentor in the background that nobody gets to understand? But you've mentioned a couple of times mentorship. Why is mentorship important in this kind of field that we're all in?
So every entrepreneur that I've succeeded, I don't care what level they are, have received some form of mentorship. So it can come in different ways, right? It could be from a friend, because here's the concept. We've misunderstood mentorship to be superiority and inferiority, to be someone who have a superior knowledge, providing you guidance in something.
Did you have to book a call every week or whatever?
Exactly, right? And that's the formalization. And then even within accelerators and incubators now, today, the people that we call mentors to startups are not really mentors, right? They are coaches. They are there to deliver on a certain dedicated targets, right? KPIs to hit a certain goal. Mentorship is a long-term process. It's a long-term relationship. It takes a personal relationship, right? And that's where a lot of people, including myself, fail, right? Because at the time, I think when I go and ask someone how to do X, and then they say, do X this way, right? That's mentorship. But meanwhile, it was about a longer term effect. And I didn't have that, right? And it's very, very crucial. I want you to understand this. So whether you can receive mentorship through an individual that you're following online, consistently just looking at their thought process, the way they're doing things, the way they're posting about things that they're achieving. For example, someone out there you could actually be a mentor to someone out there with your podcast, right? Because they are building, you would say it's an intimate relationship with you, but they are building an intimate relationship with your content vis-a-vis your knowledge over a period of time. So they're seeing how you're doing things. They're looking at the lighting. They're looking at the camera. They're looking at the way you are, the question, the follow-up questions, and how you produce and everything. And that goes on for some time, right? That in itself is mentorship. So now when you're looking at structured mentorship, right? Because there's different nuances about it. When you're looking at structured mentorship, this is where you say, okay, let me book a call. The reason why you book a call is because you are respectful of the individual's time, right? You know that they're a busy person. So you want to ensure that you're having a conversation at the time that they can actually give you the advice that you need, right? But if your mentorship is good enough, your mentors can in fact become your sponsors. This is what a lot of mentors don't end up becoming for their entrepreneurs. So in essence, that mentorship by default probably failed, because the mentors doesn't only impact knowledge, it opens up opportunities. So the mentor says, I don't have this information, but I have someone that I could connect you with. I can't get your market to Amazon, but I can get it to eBay. I can't do this, I can do that. But then when you walk out of the room, your mentor will say, oh, Yusuf is my mentee. He's really good. Give him this contract, give him that. And besides that, I oversee him. He's my mentee. that's your mentor becoming your sponsor. We never allow the relationship to grow beyond that one milestone, that two milestones. So we just leave the relationship at the coaching level. It never goes beyond. And then for some reason, we misrepresent the two. We interchange them. Coaching, mentorship, coaching, and never really understands that mentorship is more about relationship building for the equal success of both parties. Equal success of both parties, right? Whereas coaching is the success that as a result of a milestone hit within a defined period for one party with the guidance of a subject matter expert. So this is why you will have a peer mentor where you would not have a peer coach. Because we are friends, we can mentor each other, right? So now it could be good, it could be bad, but we'll mentor each other. Correct? People will say peer pressure is a form of mentorship. So for me, everything, whether it's entrepreneurship or your career, whatever it is, if you want to take it to the next level and the next level, you have to have people who not only cheer you on, but are willing to open the doors and able to provide you the guidance and able to provide you an advice. They don't necessarily need to be the people who knows everything that you do, right? And this is why you don't only have one mentor, you have multiple mentors that are skilled in different things.
Yeah. And you believe you missed this?
Absolutely. Like by a million miles. By a million miles.
Yeah. But one could say that you ended up building InvestMe. So in some sense, the failure became your mentorship,
No, but I found mentorship, don't forget, I found mentorship in the books of the individual that I read, right? I started reading Malcolm Gladwell, started reading the likes of John Maxwell. I started reading, started following Strive Massiwe, right? So I built intimate relationship with the content and the knowledge that they've built over time and that they shared publicly. So even though it was not structured mentorship, I wasn't having one-on-one calls with them, but I was in tune with the knowledge that they were sharing, right? So in the process of building InvestMe, because I didn't have that one-on-one structured mentorship, I went in search of mentorship and I found them in the library of the US Embassy.
Yeah. So InvestMe becomes a big hit.
It wasn't a big hit for me.
Exactly.
It wasn't like a global. And the reason why it was a big hit for me, because with InvestMe led to, I think it was through InvestMe I made my first huge check. Say it was 100 million euros. And it came through a peer mentor of mine, a very close friend of mine, who's a peer mentor. So we're at the same level of knowledge and everything, but it was...
You said 100 million euros?
100 million euros.
Okay.
Euros. So it's like, back in the day, that would probably be about, if my memory serves me, maybe it's around 20, 30K. Back then, the value have dropped significantly now, so I wouldn't really know the rate. And it was around that time, and it was a big hit. This was more than if I've been working for like 2 years worth of salary. So it's just happened in one go. Boom. So once that happened, I realized, holy smokes, I can actually be rich in this, But then, yeah, we blew all the money, my friend and I. The bought phones and stuff.
Went back to the business? The phones business?
No. Bought phones, ate the money, I was going to restaurants. And again, this is where, again, the next level of mentorship was not there, right? So the financial discipline side.
Yeah.
And so I went back to being the broke guy. So immediately it came in, I went back to, but it was a validation.
Yeah.
It was a validation of what is possible if I do this right and don't give up and just keep doing it, maybe in different ways, the act of pivoting, but never stopping.
Yep. And then fast forward to today. What are you working on today?
Yeah, so today I'm the chief operating officer for an exciting company called Flay.
What's the problem you guys have identified?
It's a problem everybody knows. So today, there's a love relationship between diaspora and remittances. Maybe 90% of the fintech companies in the continent focus on remittances. Cross-border payments, whatever you want to call it, is remitting money. Correct. But why do people remit money? So that's the one question nobody asking. So I'll give you an example. Global remittances, I think in 2023 or 2002 or 2023 was north of $600 billion. Bigger than global aid combined, foreign direct investment combined. This is how much money people living in the diaspora send back home to their family. Guess for what?
Healthcare.
Exactly. Healthcare is one of the biggest reasons why they send that money. And so it means that for every time someone back home is sick, their best option is to find, maybe out of 8 people that are sick in Africa, right? Out of 10 people that are sick in Africa, 8 of them will depend on a relative overseas to finance the medical well-being. So the burden lays on the shoulder of the diaspora, who nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody knows the brutality of their life, the cold, the long nights, or the hours. Nobody understands this, but everybody believes that because they've gone overseas, they're responsible for everything back home. And so imagine that sub-Saharan and African alone, about 43 billion plus sent in remittances, and roughly about 80% is accounted for family care, right? So family care, including not only healthcare, but healthcare makes a large amount of it, but also other things, right? Like food and stuff like that. And then the World Bank states that for every dollar spent for care, only 2 cents makes it into care. So only 20% of the money that is actually, the 80% that actually meant for family care actually goes into healthcare. So it means that the health outcomes of the loved one back home that this diaspora are sending money for is not being optimized for 2 reasons. When they send the money, either opportunity cost step in, so the individual receiving the money now start thinking, should I go to the hospital or should I just divide the money and take a pharmacy route, right? And then they don't get the best care. And often at times, it becomes too late and then they die. The second option, when we want money from family in the diaspora, most times for many people, only for the few, for many people, they quote healthcare. Know why? Because there's an emotional relationship that is unleashed when you say to someone, I am sick, send me money. So when you say to someone, I'm sick, send me money, you are blackmailing them emotionally to care for you, otherwise you will die. Do you understand?
It will be somewhat responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. So what Flurry does is to provide an aggregated platform, a solution that allows the diaspora to be able to take care of their family members back home without needing to remit money. So you're sick? Okay, good. With the Flurry platform, you get a doctor. So we're solving for speed to care, access to care, but also optimizing care. So it means that when someone is sick, you don't have to wait until the diaspora remits money. You can actually go get care, right? You can't lie to the members of the diaspora, because for every time you lie to them, for every dollar that they send, that's money they should be using in paying the bills. That money they should be using in educating and furthering the so-called greater pastures that they all went on to find. Because one of the biggest burden of the diaspora community today and why there's this stagnation for most of them not reaching full potential is they need to take your family back home. And that need, 80% of that need accounts for healthcare. And that's what Fleury is solving. So Fleury doesn't remit money, we transform lives.
Yeah. And how does that work for that auntie who's back in Kampala in Uganda, has their nephew in Netherlands, let's say, and they're like, hey, I just got diagnosed with this, I need some money. She goes into the platform?
No. So nephew, yes. Remember, Fleury is built for the nephew. Nephew goes to the platform, sign up, onboard auntie as a beneficiary in Kampala, book auntie's appointments, shop the best care for auntie because now they have choice of care. Auntie has a family coordinator that coordinates the care for auntie. Auntie goes into the hospital, get the best healthcare outcomes. Auntie doesn't see money. Money goes directly to the healthcare provider.
Does that mean that Fleury has built relationship with all these different providers?
Yes.
In how many markets?
So that's how we scale, actually. So today we are about in 10 markets. So we scale by leveraging partnerships on the provider network that we built.
Yeah. And what are those markets?
So we are in Sierra Leone, Liberia, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, last market, Gambia. Yeah.
And what influences the market that you guys have already scaled into?
So we look at the volume of remittance. It's the smartest thing to do. So look at the volume of the remittance, right? So how much money are people in Nigeria, members of Nigerian diaspora, sending back home to Nigeria? We look at that as an influential factor. But also look at the need itself, because there are some countries wherein the need is just really, really prominent, right? And that need could be as a result of lack of choice to care. So auntie is sick, auntie only know hospital Y. So auntie cannot really justify the value of hospital Z, X, A for better health outcomes. They are only limited to hospital Y. Fleury says, we bring all of the hospitals, they're all on a single platform. Nephew in the Netherlands, shop the best care. But we don't stop that. We ensure that you don't only shop the best care. Through our care coordinator, we optimize the best care. Because of our partnership with a provider, it means that our providers have the moral obligation to treat each of our patients that we're sending with the highest professional standard, or else they're kicked out of our platform.
Yeah. And so would you say you're considering, who would you consider as your competitor, right? Is it this remittance platforms, or also, so you're just looking at the 80% of the amount that goes to healthcare and solving for that. You're not thinking about what about education and other needs that are also big.
So remember, Fleury is a fintech platform. So our goal is to aggregate and then facilitate the payment, starting with healthcare. So utopia will be going to education, infrastructure, and expanding beyond. But today, we want to start with the most pressing need, which is healthcare, optimizing the wellness of the people left back home as a result of us going to chase greener pastures.
Yeah. And I can imagine that where you make money is by nephew being a user.
Yeah, so we make money. So we have premium features that nephew can use, but also make money because remember, it's a platform. So providers that list in the platform gets to pay a service fee for every transaction that is made through the platform for their service. But also there is a little bit of, make money in the foreign exchange side, Remember, we don't remit money. So just to be clear, we don't remit money, right? All of the transactions is done through the Flurry wallet, right? And then payout is done directly to the bank account of these individuals, right? And then we'll also make money through our care coordinator's fee, right? So there's a lot of different ways that we make money through the Flurry platform, but we also have different models. So we have the B2B model. So the B2B model allows companies that are hiring across Africa looking to onboard staff on healthcare plans to use Flurry to be able to onboard staff at scale across different markets. Why? Because we have the network. And we have the providers. So Flurry work with the providers and then we onboard your staff, right? So that's a B2B aspect. But part of the B2B also is to actually get employers pay for Flurry as an employee benefits platform for their migrant staff. Because here's the thing, migration is only going to increase. A bunch of the world's profession is going to be filled by migrants. These migrants are going to look at the best outcomes possible for them. That outcome is going to go beyond salary, healthcare for themselves and their immediate family. It's going to go beyond continuous development, education. So things like how does this company help me take care of my family back home? That's what it is.
Very interesting. Interesting product, actually. So how many users do you have who are paying for healthcare?
So today we have more than 4,500 members on our platform that are transacting. But you have to understand, right? The way the users are, sometimes we wait until crisis happens and then they use the platform. But they still use the platform, which is a good thing. So our churn rate is less than 50% because once people sign up, they know emergency happens and then we just stay on and then they just use the platform. And they use the platform in different ways. So some pay the premium membership plan, which is good. Some just do direct care transaction. And some just use the platform to purchase insurance product for their family members.
Yeah. Very just like 4,500. Where are all these, where are the users based?
The UK, North America, Canada. That's where most of them are based.
Yeah. And which countries do you see are the top ones in Africa sending money to?
Nigeria, Ghana. And now we're beginning to see Kenya rivaling a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the countries with the biggest diaspora.
Right? Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Very interesting. What's the future of Flurry? Actually, where does the name come from?
So it's a Haitian name, which means to flourish, right? And it's coming from the idea of the one reason why members of the diaspora, why people even go through the Mediterranean Sea, go through the desert, take the long journey from home, is the notion of better future, flourishing. But often at times, members of the diaspora are unable to actually reach full potential because of the burden to take. Flurry helps them flourish. Flurry is to make sure the diaspora flourishes by ensuring that money spent gives the yield that results it's meant for.
Interesting. So what's the future of Flurry?
Today, there's a lot of things, a lot of dynamics happening. As you know, it's been an interesting period for a lot of companies across the continent. Flurry is based in the US. Our operational market is Africa because we know Africa a lot more, so we operate in corridors. So the future is actually scaling to Southeast Asia, specifically the Philippines, if all goes well. Because the Philippines today alone probably, as a country, without exaggeration, probably receive more remittances or almost rival the remittance by volume for the whole sub-Saharan Africa combined.
Really? Yeah, a lot of they work in exactly. Yeah, they work in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and all these different markets, right? Yeah, makes sense. Pretty cool, man. Sidi, you've been in the industry for a long time, right? There's a lot of things that we did not touch on that you've been part of. You've been an entrepreneur. You've worked in the. You've helped investors, kind of like raise their funds, let's say, and build up their investment philosophies, right? So you've been in every corner. You've built, you've failed, you've succeeded, and you're still building, right? What do you think is one of the biggest challenges that you see in the African startup ecosystem at the moment?
So we're building on top of what I call a dysfunctional foundation. What do I mean by that? It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of effort happening, right? There's a lot of efforts being put in. There's a lot of work that is really going on. But then the foundation is faulty. What do I mean by that? When I started entrepreneurship, the goal was not to have an exit. The goal was not to have a big exit. The goal was to provide a solution that people will use. Today we have too many apps in the continent that people, like half of the people that we want to serve, don't have a clue how to use them. It's like, let me give you an example. It's like taking a robot, right, that's man traffic in the UK, remove it from the UK and then go put it in Lagos to man traffic. Would it work? Would it make an impact? I mean, that's what a lot of the companies that we're building are today. You will hear someone say, oh, we're building the this of Africa. We're building the X for Africa. Yeah. We're building the F for Africa. So they're essentially saying we're building this product that is in the US, that have succeeded in the US for Africa. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But the philosophy behind it means that the why is not strong enough, because you're building a model that is just a repetition of what you've seen work elsewhere, hoping that localization will make it work here. But the truth is, it never is the case, right? It never even will work. So remember, raising funds, while it can create the perception of success, is not truly success. So you can raise $50 million and still fail, and still never get to product market fit, because the people you're building for don't see value in what you're building. So this is a part of the entrepreneurs, right? Most of our products are being built with the notion of what investors want to see. So investors give me money, and not what fundamentally needs to be done, even though it's very, very hard, but people need it. Do you understand, right? The reason why MoneyPoint is one of the most beautiful companies in the continent today is because they built something that people actually need, specifically in Nigeria. They started off building banking infrastructures, and then they saw the need. They were not building so they can exit to one big investor so they can go raise millions of dollars. No, that was not the idea. The idea was, how do we build foundationally, right, and support banking infrastructures? And then they saw that the POS systems were failing everywhere. And then the philosophy was, how do we make it better, right? But now, when we're building on what will make venture A, private equity Y, angel Z interested in this product. We're building that pattern. So at the end of the day, when venture A, angel Y, or private equity B don't give us funds, we're failing. Why? We die because the people that we're building for don't really need our products. And sometimes we'll see that sometimes we pay these people to actually use our product. Like we've seen those models. We'll pay them to actually use our product. It's not sustainable. It might look like it will gain you traction in the short run because everybody needs money. Everybody wants free product. But in the long run, it's never going to succeed. That's one aspect. And the other aspect is the investor side, right? Investors are playing the perception game. Some of them don't have funds. Some of them do. Some of them have never built a company. Some of them have. Some of them don't understand the African dynamics. So their funding are not patient. Their funding are structured in the same way as funds are structured in Silicon Valley and things like that. And then they are shoving it down in the throat of African entrepreneurs and thinking that they will give them the return Silicon Valley entrepreneurs is giving. With the full knowledge that the infrastructure and the play is completely different, right? So we are creating this burden of dependency on an ecosystem that is dysfunctional, right? Because the investors will string the entrepreneurs along, even though they know that they will not give them fund. And then the entrepreneurs will build their product in line with an idea or an ideology that fits a particular entrepreneur, a particular investor, right? So that's on the investor side. And there's no structured mentorship happening in there. The investors just come, they give you money, they play the power role. We invest in 50. We'll find 2 entrepreneurs that we really like. We'll work with these 2 entrepreneurs and see whether we can scale them. Meanwhile, the 48 can go kill themselves.
Yeah.
Right? But then in our books for our LPs, we'll say we've invested in 50 funds. We've invested in 50 companies. The LPs like, yay, a lot of investment. These are very active. But meanwhile, you're just focusing on 2. Like your interest is just on 2. So you're not providing the market access. Very important. You're not providing the market access. Some investors can't even introduce portfolio companies to each other so they can transact with each other. Because if you look at the way the ecosystem is today, most B2B customers sit within the portfolio companies of these investors. So the investors can actually drive traction for these businesses if they were able to create an environment that allows their portfolio companies to see value in each other and transact within each other. They don't do that. Why? I don't know. Or because they don't care enough. Because they don't care about the 48, they care only about the 2. Because it's the power rule. Are we investing a lot? So if one come back and give me 100x, it covers the losses of the. But why not invest in 10 and then give all 10 your full attention? See what happens. That's what we need. The other side of the coin is dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Now the ecosystem builders themselves, ESOs, accelerators, incubators. We have people who are running accelerators that should not be running accelerators. They've not built businesses before. They've not been entrepreneurs before. Most of them are academics. Most of them are coming from the corporate world. And then they are more or less taking a blueprint of a program design somewhere. And then they're saying, this is a prestigious accelerator. Come through and blow.
Here's a business model canvas.
Here's the business model canvas. There's a business model canvas. Come through. Let's get it done and work. But here's the thing. Most of the entrepreneurs that goes through this program come out more confused than how they went in before. I guarantee you, I've been in this space, right? They come out more confused than how they got in, right? Because when they get in with the hope that they'll have access, right? Whether it's access to capital or access to mentorship or access to markets. They come out not knowing any of those things. The only things that they know is business model canvas, KPI settings, matrix tracking, nothing else, right? And and then they create the perception on the media that they've gone through this prestigious accelerator. But then it doesn't mean that the accelerators are not trying. They are really, really great ones. So it's not a blanket. So the dysfunctionality is not coming from the fact that people are not doing their job. It's just the fact that people are building with what they know and how they know and how they see things, right? So people like myself that have been in that I'm sort of like outside now, I'm able to see like different aspects playing around that's clearly not working. It's dysfunctional, but nobody is happy to talk about it, right? Because at the end of the day, even within the ecosystem, the accelerators, they are operating as startups themselves. Because remember, most of them are powered by grants. So they're all bidding for the same grants. They're all chasing the same money. And so there's no sustainable business model that actually drives them. So their capacity to support their entrepreneurs is often limited by the amount of grants that they have. But that's actually the truth even for businesses. The money that you have tells you how far you can run. But the truth is, if you have built a business before, right, like what Boston did with CC Hub, you will know that he has the capacity to be able to build 20 times than what he's built in CC Hub and other ventures. Why? He's done it. He's built a sustainable model that works. How many accelerators and incubators you know today in the continent that have a sustainable business model outside of grants? How many? Like you can count. Like if we say now, let's count. Yeah. How many would you count?
None even most.
Exactly. Most of the most sustainable model now are actually international players making play into the African ecosystem. They are not actually African-owned brand that are built with understanding the context of the African ecosystem that are formulated or understand sustainable model that works. Yeah. The most sustainable accelerators and incubators coming into the market are international organizations that have huge capital backing it. Everybody else is doing the same thing, chasing money. So that's the ESO side. And the policy side is, you already know. We go to conferences, we talk the big talk, we say the big things. In fact, sometimes we actually go as far as drafting the policies and passing them in parliament, but the implementation part. Why? Because we're doing it to be seen and not to actually develop. So when you say, oh, we launch the Startup Act, XYZ, everybody runs with it. Yes, it's back, it's done and everything. But meanwhile, the players that are meant to implement and deliver on the Startup Act are not uniform in delivering, no implementation plan. How do you expect that policy to keep? Impossible. So that's the dysfunctional model that we're building, like on different level. Yeah. And the truth is, we're not going to see it now. It's not going to unravel now. It's going to unravel 10 years down the line.
Yeah. And how did we get there? Let's look at the entrepreneurs. How did we get there, right? We have these entrepreneurs like the founder of MoneyPoint, right? Successful guy, has built a very solid business. Any banker looks at him with great respect, right? Like this is a true entrepreneur, right? Who's been able to leverage technology to really build a solution for an African problem, right? And then we have a lot of other founders who are just out there trying to chase the next LinkedIn article, right? What happened between that generation, let's say, and this generation, the generation of the cellulant, the guys who built these kind of great companies, right? And the new generation.
Because during those days, there was nothing like hype. There's nowhere you can go buy media publicity to talk about you, invite you to one funny award, put you in one funny list and stuff like that. It was about building, hustling, and making money, right? So today, and you have to understand, every single generation has what it is really good at, right? So today, and what the influences were. Today, the influences are more about visibility, right? And less about building a solid business. So this is why you will have product A and product B. They are the same products, but product A is way better in its elements. Product B have more media publicity than product A. Who do you think will raise the most funds?
The one with the more publicity.
Exactly. Right? So that influences the way our generation of entrepreneurs think. Is the person who screamed the loudest.
Yeah.
Right? And the truth is, sometimes shouting is helpful if you've built something really solid. Shouting without having any solid.
What's the call? The dog.
Yes,
something like that.
Yeah, because
the one that you shouldn't hear or something like that.
Yeah, because the thing is, the truth is, right, the media is becoming, the media is becoming ever increasingly effective in defining our ecosystem. So the reason why we name the Big Four today is an intentional role played by the media to curate a narrative.
Yeah.
Right? So now when you speak to experts, they will tell you, oh no, the Big Four is based on market size. It's because it's based on economic volume and stuff like that. But what is the market size of Israel? But yet produces one of the world's largest number of unicorns. What is the market size of Sweden, that has the second largest number of unicorn per capita, second only to Silicon Valley? So is it quantity or is it quality? What is stopping a country like a country like Sierra Leone with 8 million people building the leading companies, many unicorns that are serving Pan-African? Because remember, we have the AFCTA, right? So it means that there's endless opportunity. You're not going to limit me to just the market that I am founded in. So in that essence, what really is the Big Four? If you look at it like critically, then how do you then define the Big Four? If you know that realistically, there should not be any barrier to trade. If you're building a tech, you should be able to scale across multiple markets. But if you're looking at evidences of countries that have done it before, you can see countries like Israel that have done it before with less number of people, but many unicorns, right? Why is it that the Big Four have to be just one with the most population? It's the media. Right? It's the perception the media have created, right? It is what the media have said, the power that the media have given to say South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt are the best markets for any entrepreneurs. But what is stopping a company being built somewhere in Zambia or Rwanda, becoming $1 billion conglomerate and taking over all of Africa? I mean, if they free trade area agreement that we've signed is really, really, really something we should go by, then the Big Four is not really a Big Four, is it? It's not.
It's wherever there is talent.
It's wherever there is talent and the ability to ship.
Yeah. Who are the top 3 companies, tech companies that you're excited for in Africa right now?
So Money Points is definitely
Up there?
100% every day, every time, just because this guy built.
The execution is insane.
Like he built, like he actually built, and his team built. Is very crucial. Let me put it like that. His team really, really built. Fleury. It's not because I'm in Fleury. It's because even if Fleury were to fail today, I'll be satisfied that Fleury have started paving the way to a solution that is going to exist whether I like it or not. Because whether I like it or not, people are going to be fed up of sending money back home that are not being accounted for. People are going to reach that state of frustration wherein you send millions of dollars back home to look after the healthcare of someone, and then they end up dying because they didn't get the care that they need. And this is not because I'm with Fleury. It's because of how important the problem is. Right? The next company that I'm excited for really will be it's competing, right? I want to say I'm really excited about Flutterwave, but I'm really excited about Alt School. Yeah.
And the other.
Yeah. Because it's 2 different things. So, and here's the one question. Competitively in the global market, what does Africa has?
People.
Exactly. Alt is built in people. And if they continue to do it really, really well, they will be the largest contributor to the African skill development space. Easy.
I agree. And I also think their team really is good at executing.
I don't know I don't know Ade personally. I've tried to engage him on 1 or 2 times, but I don't know him personally. But the story from inside people that know him and the conversation. And yeah, there's one thing that I want to also mention just for clarity. I don't believe that it takes a single person to build a company.
True.
You can have the vision, fine, but it takes a team to execute. And having that team in Africa to deliver the level, Money Points, Alt School, Flutterwave is delivering at the moment, it's an amazing thing. And the whole team, especially the African team, needs to be held in the highest regard, right? So there are companies like Paystack that I consider as like godfathers. So I'm not even because they've built one of the most solid products to have ever come out of the continent, right? So I'm not even talking about them, right? But in terms of like what my excitement is at the moment, I would say definitely Money Points, Fleury, Alt, and Flutterwave.
Yeah.
Sidi, there is young person somewhere in Africa who's listening or watching us, and they're like, oh yeah, I follow Sidi a lot on social media. Love is always all over the place, speaking all over the world. Oh my God, I really want to quit my job, or I want to become an entrepreneur. I want to start a startup as well. I want to be on TechCrunch. I want to be on LinkedIn saying my company was bought for $200 million as well. Why are you laughing? What's your advice for this young person
Don't do it. Don't do any of those things. So Elon Musk once said, so I listened to a Clubhouse conversation he gave, and then he said, if you need someone to motivate you to become an entrepreneur, to advise you to become an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be even thinking about entrepreneurship. Because here's the thing, when shit hit the fan, the person that advised you to become an entrepreneur will be nowhere to be found. It will be you, yourself, and your God. Full stop. So if that person was the reason why you become an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
you're probably going to want to kill that person along your journey. Believe me.
So what's the motivation to become an entrepreneur?
I believe everybody have the capacity to become an entrepreneur. I believe that everybody have the capacity to become an entrepreneur. Should you be one? Should everybody be one? Not really. You can work within an organization and still deliver with an entrepreneurship mindset and make millions. We've seen global empires built by individuals that were employees, and today they are millionaires, some are even billionaires. They operate, they actually use entrepreneurship mindset to deliver to get to that level. Do you need to be an entrepreneur? Maybe not. But if you really, really believe that you should be an entrepreneur, why? Because at the end of the day, when everything fails, when funding fails, because it's going to fail, when people don't buy your product because they're not going to buy it, that's like the first period of figuring out, they're not going to buy it. When your friends refuse to post your flyers and share your flyers, and this is very important, right? Because we often think that we are entitled because we are so-called entrepreneurs, that so our families will be sending our flyers everywhere and things like that. And we go on social media and we cry when our families don't post our flyers and stuff like that. But here's the thing. If your family is not posting your flyers, it means two things. Number one, either you're in the wrong family or you're building the wrong thing. I'm serious. Either you're in the wrong family or you're building the wrong thing. Because here's the thing. If you're in the right family, they will want to support you. And sharing a flyer should not be something you beg them to do. They will do it naturally. If you're building something that is good, that people need, they themselves will be excited to share it. Why? Because by sharing, they get to associate themselves with your brand. So if they are not sharing, two things is happening. Number one, bad family. Number two, terrible product. You have to figure it out yourself. But no one owes you anything. So your why needs to be strong enough when everything fails to still want to continue doing it. So figure out what that why is before you jump in. And just don't jump in because Yusuf said you should become an entrepreneur. Because if you fail, you're going to hate Yusuf. And it's not going to be his fault. It's going to be your fault because you decided to become an entrepreneur based on someone else's word.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sidi, thank you very much, man.
Thank you very much
for your knowledge and for what you're building. You're solving a really, really, really big problem for the diaspora, but also for Africans. We're really excited about where Flair is going to go and where you're going to go as well as an entrepreneur, as a problem solver. And let's keep building.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excited.
All right, man. Cheers.